Welcome back, everyone, for a early morning, well, relatively early Friday morning. Joining me this morning is the one and only Richard. Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Morning, Paul. Good. Just back from my swim, so I'm feeling good.
You've been out. Where have you been swimming this morning? In the sea again?
In the sea, mate. Yeah, in the sea.
Unbelievable.
We're a hardy lot, us Northerners, you know.
Oh, gee, I tell you what, mate, you can't even get me in a swimming pool this weather.
What is it? 28 degrees now, Paul. It's cooled down a bit.
Do you know, it's about 27 today. Yeah, it's cooled down a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 9 degrees here, mate.
Good afternoon, good morning. It's afternoon here, but good morning to everyone back in the UK. We'll just give it a couple of minutes, Richard, for everyone to join in before we get the show on the road. And boy, oh boy, what a show we've got for you this morning. Thank you so much to Richard for joining me. He is also live. He is also live on his channels, which are Richard Inman and Kelson.
No, we're on Counter Media, and what I want everyone to do, everyone that watches me, if you're watching me normally on the Richard Inman channel, dive across to Counter Media and subscribe to Counter Media. It doesn't cost anything, but it just helps us massively because obviously we've got those channels monetized. The Richard Inman channel, even though it's got loads of subscribers, I don't get a bean from it. So if you want to help me out, dive across to Counter Media and subscribe to that one. I'm also on Twitter as well. So if you're watching on Twitter and you don't know me on YouTube, get across to Counter Media and subscribe to that. It'd be really, really appreciated.
Thank you very much for everyone joining us this morning. I really appreciate it. We've got a big show this morning. Normally I do these as videos rather than shows, but been having a bit of a problem, Richard. I've just released a little short and a video on TikTok as well that YouTube are hiding my regular videos. The lives are doing fine, but my regular videos are bombing at the moment because the notifications just aren't going out. They're not being received. People aren't seeing that I'm live, that I've uploaded a video. So if you are already a subscriber to my channel, I think the best thing you can do is maybe unsubscribe and resubscribe, or at least make sure you hit the notification bell. Something very much is not right at the moment, but we'll continue to do our best.
The other thing, Paul, is with that, I mean, even though it's a bit of a pain, if you've got channels, if you like my channel, if you like Paul's channel, just check on our, save the channels in your favorites and just check on our channels when you go on every day. And because we're posting all the time. So if you're not seeing stuff on a daily basis, that means, the sneaky beakies or whoever's, trying to squash our message of peace, harmony and love, basically, are doing a number on us. And I think that's what's happening, Paul, to be honest with you.
John is asking, are you having us lot on this morning, or is it just yourself and Richard? Well, we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. We've got a lot of videos to get through. That's good, Lynn. Unfortunately, you are in a very big minority at the moment. So let's get into it. Let's get started. As I say, welcome back, everyone, and good morning. And as the nation mourns yet another Islamic terrorist attack on our streets, as our Jewish community walk those same streets in fear every single day of their lives, and believe me, they are walking those streets in fear. The message from the unholy alliance of the hard left, the communists, the pro-Palestine terrorist supporters was made very, very clear again last night, I'm afraid. Let's have a little look. And today and this morning, the videos have been, they've been pouring in. This is last night, Richard.
I know. Absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely. Yeah. Can I just stop? Can you just stop that a second, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if I don't comment straight away, I'm getting to the age now where I forget what I was going to say. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, fine, mate.
But I mean, you imagine if you're a Jewish family and you're in that station, there's just been a massacre, right? Or an attempted massacre. 2 people have been murdered, others injured, and thankfully the jihadist has been eliminated by the police. And you're a Jewish family going home, and you've got your kids with you, and you're quite obviously Jewish, and you happen to walk into that station, whatever station it is. I know there was trouble at Euston Station. I'm not sure which one that is. And you walk into that mob of scumbags that have no compassion. And look, we kind of expect it from the ones who have a predisposition to jihad, right? But there's a lot of white English middle class people there chanting about free Palestine. And free Palestine means kill all the Jews in Israel. That's what it's code for. Let's just get it right. We know what it means, right? Let's stop all this word gymnastics and hiding behind, oh well, jihad doesn't really mean kill the infidel. No, yet it does. Yes, it does. And the guy that was called jihad did a jihad yesterday. But you imagine if you're a Jewish family, Paul, and you've got your kids there, and you're quite obviously, maybe it's by the school uniform, whatever, you're obviously identifiable as a Jewish family. The terror. And you said it yesterday, Paul, and you're absolutely bang on right. This is like 1930s Germany all over again.
All over again.
I'm ashamed, not of myself and not of our movement and not of the Patriots, but I'm ashamed of my government. I'm ashamed of the media. I'm ashamed of the BBC and Sky News and all this nonsense that they've been spouting. Well, do you know what? BBC, Keir Starmer, Labour Party, Corbyn, all of those people who've spent their lives supporting the jihad in Israel, there's blood on your hands.
I was going to say they need to wash their hands this morning.
Well, they can't wash their hands. They'll never be able to wash the blood out of their hands.
Exactly. And whilst all decent, sane people mourn the death of those innocents, these animals celebrated. They celebrated with their masks. They celebrated with their Palestinian flags, their drums and their stupid songs. They openly celebrated their hatred for the West and their pure hatred for every single Jewish person on this planet. Meanwhile, our police services are instructed quite clearly to treat them with kid gloves for fear of what might happen. 1 second.
There's all peaceful giving speeches and then
This is Shabana Mahmood's religion of peace that we're looking at right there. And of course, this has all been going on whilst our police officers have been busy handcuffing children, yes, children, who dare to make a noise or wave the Union Jack.
Peaceful. Taking the door.
Anyone now?
yes, they are, but they're going to tell you as well. The reason everybody's around. Some kind of
He's 11. Are you trying to target me or something? You need to go home. You need to take my children and go home. Is that what you want? Yeah. So you're going to target my children, yeah?
I'm not talking
Yeah, you are.
Blimey. And we've got teachers in our schools who have been recorded. You heard the recording the other night, brainwashing our children whilst admitting to attending hard left demonstrations themselves. You've all seen that video, whilst other children are sent home from school merely for wearing a Union Jack dress, for being proud of their history and their culture. Richard, we are in a mess.
We're in a terrible mess, Paul, and you know it focuses my mind on what needs to be done and what we need. And as we've said, and I've said this since I started doing activism, and I always look through the prism of the troubles in Northern Ireland that never got as bad as they could have done. They didn't get as bad as they could have done because of the excellent work of the intelligence services, the police, the British Army, and the special forces that were deployed against the terrorists. Right. That's why there was peace in Northern Ireland. It was nothing to do with Blair and his surrender process. It was to do with a strategic defeat of the IRA by the security forces. But putting all that aside, things could have been a lot worse in Northern Ireland than they were. And believe you me, they were bad enough. It was not a pleasant. That's not the right word. There was a constant tension and a constant fear of attack from all sides, by all sides, right? Now, here's the thing, Paul. What we're looking at in the UK, and this is where it gets very, very alarming. That man that carried out that attack yesterday was not on the radar. He was what you call a clean skin. He'd never been arrested for terrorism. He'd never been obviously in those circles, those obvious circles, and he managed to slip right under the radar and carry out that attack. Now, how many more jihads are there? You know, this guy, and here's another thing. This guy came to our country when he was a child. He was obviously educated in the UK. He had all the benefits of being a British citizen, probably had a British passport, right?
Oh, Richard, let me just stop you there. Apparently, he does have a British passport, but the BBC described him this morning as a British man of Syrian descent.
Incredible. Incredible.
A British man of Syrian descent. No, he was a Syrian man with a British passport.
Absolutely. And when that man carried out that attack yesterday, he forfeited his right to life, which thankfully the police took. And I say thankfully, not because I'm vindictive or because I want revenge, but because this is what people have got to understand, right? About military action by the state and about action by the police that ends in a death. Invariably, the action that the police have taken that takes someone's life or the special forces have taken prevents a far greater death toll happening. And that's what happened yesterday. And that's why I'm glad that that man was eliminated by the police, because no doubt there were children in that synagogue. There were innocent people, like there was 2 innocent men killed on the gate. And if it wasn't for the bravery of the Jewish security guys in that synagogue school, whatever it was, that what happened yesterday would have been far worse. And if it wasn't for the speed of reaction of those police, it could have been far worse. But you know what worries me, Paul? I'm going to say something here. This is going to be a bit controversial. When the police shot that man, right? Obviously, he was wearing some sort of vest, and I think this is because of the way that the police have been dragged through the courts over controversial shootings. And obviously, we don't trigger happy cops running around the country shooting everybody. But I want to make this point about the way he was eliminated. Right? They'd shot him. He wasn't dead. He was still a threat, and he still had what appeared to be a vest, some sort of, and he looked like he was trying to trigger it. And like you said yesterday, was it a hoax or was it a viable device that was just badly put together? Either way, it doesn't matter. But the point is, he was making movements. He could have had another weapon. He could have had a firearm on him. We don't know. So, to me, when you're in a situation like that, and I think
this is a very, very good point, Richard. A very good point.
It's a vital point. When you shoot someone, if you use lethal force, people talk about a shoot to kill policy. Every time you pull that trigger, you are shooting to kill. You know, you're shooting to eliminate the threat. And they hadn't eliminated the threat. And thankfully, they did eliminate the threat.
So are you saying there should have been a second shot, Richard?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, we don't know about the first shots, because I don't know how many times he was shot initially. We know he was on the ground. I'm guessing he'd already been shot when the so
maybe that was the second shot that we saw.
Well, that was maybe the third or fourth shot. We don't know how many times he'd been hit, but the point is he was still alive.
Yeah.
And just from Northern Ireland days, when the special forces took on an IRA ASU, they had to make sure that they eliminated the threat. In other words, when you've got heavily armed terrorists, you've got to make sure that they cannot kill anybody else. That is the priority, saving life.
Yeah.
And I thought Ant Middleton said it very well when he was on Liam Tuff's podcast, and he quoted from the Bible. He says, instead of being overcome by evil, overcome evil with good. So he said when he was going in and obviously doing whatever he did, and we'll not go into what he did, that's obviously he doesn't go into detail about what he exactly did, but he was the first man through the door. We know that. So when he was doing what he was doing it to save life. And I think this is a really important point. In any sort of conflict, if you're a genuine representative, peace-loving democracy, if you're deploying lethal force, invariably it's against people that are going to take innocent life. So it is totally justifiable, and it is totally right to do that, because you know yourself, you'll get the pearl-clutching, bleeding heart liberals, probably crying about, oh, well, the police shot an unarmed man. No, he wasn't an unarmed man. Nobody knew what a threat he was, and the only way you can stop that threat is by eliminating. The other thing is, and this is purely a practical point, the fact that he is no longer alive means that he can never be a threat again. Jihad will never do a jihad again.
Yeah,
he's done his jihad, it's over.
1 second, Richard. I just want to address my TikTok followers, guys. I am live over at YouTube. We're showing videos. We're talking to Richard Inman. If you want to hear what Richard's got to say, if you want to see the videos I'm playing, unfortunately, you'll have to join us live over at YouTube. I'm going to close down TikTok right now because people are getting frustrated that they can't hear Richard. So if you want to continue with the show, join us live over at YouTube. Thanks for watching there live on TikTok. I really appreciate that. Richard, how much of a danger are these useful idiots out on the streets right now, showing us their way of mourning? That was the headline of today's video, their way of mourning. And after a year of us being told that we need to show more tolerance, that we need to have a heart for these people, that we need to understand what's going on in the Middle East, how dangerous are these people?
They're not useful idiots, Paul. They're dangerous. I think that the days of, I mean, I was listening to the BBC radio this morning, and there was some guy sounding like he's from Belfast. I'm sure he probably couldn't even pinpoint Gaza on a map. But he was waffling on about genocide and this and that and the other. And I think there is a huge amount of culpability. Keir Starmer is culpable when he recognised what he called the Palestinian state, which is nothing more than a heap of rubble and a few terrorists at the minute. Let's get it right. When he recognized the Palestinian state, he signed the death warrants of not just those two Jewish gentlemen yesterday, but of many, many more people. Because what the narrative is, and this is very, very important that people have got to understand this. What the narrative is now, Paul, is that anybody who supports Israel is a legitimate target. That includes the British state, because despite Starmer's cowardice and Starmer's pathetic gerrymandering and allowing for the sectarian vote to overtake his thinking, despite all that, there are still close ties between Britain and Israel, and there always should be. And our Jewish friends, as we know, many of them have dual nationality. Many of them have family and friends and have homes in Israel. And the tragedy of all this is, Paul, because of these scumbags that are going out on the streets. And listen, it doesn't wash. Do you know what? One of the things that really annoys me are the Capo Jews. If anyone doesn't know what a Capo Jew is, in the concentration camps, the Capo Jews were basically Jews that collaborated with the Nazis. Because they thought they were going to get an easier time of it. That's exactly what some of these scumbag, I'm not going to name them because they'll probably sue you, but some of these scumbag journalists that you see on GB News that are Jewish by birth, attacking Israel, attacking the right of Israel to defend itself against these terrorists. Most of them are left-wing, driven by far left ideology, and they're actually traitors to the nation of Israel. They're traitors to their own race and their own religion. So those are the real useful or dangerous idiots. They're not even useful; they're dangerous idiots. So I think they're extremely dangerous, Paul. I think we're living in a situation where the next thing it'll be a church, the next thing it'll be a school, and let's just get it out there, because the truth of the matter is that's what's going to happen. And what we've done
That is the fear.
Pardon? That's
That
the
is
fear.
the fear. Yeah.
You know, and
sadly, Richard, it's almost certainly the reality.
yeah.
Let me just bring this in. Susan Wright says, "Hi, can you tell me why the government aren't banning this? It's so disrespectful." Well, I tell you what, Susan, why don't we let people better qualified than me and Richard to answer that question?
Salam alaikum. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the leaders and elders that have afforded me this opportunity to speak to you personally. The reason I'm speaking is to underline my commitment on behalf of the organisation to protect all the communities across the West Midlands. And in particular, I want to underline that message to your good selves and your congregations. And that's very, very acute to me, having seen some of the scenes that have played out elsewhere within the United Kingdom.
That of course was after the Southport issues last year, but let's carry on.
I think it's Eid Mubarak. Thank you, Kate.
It's Eid, it's a really important time for the Muslim community. So I just wanted to ask you,
So's Yom Kippur for the Jewish community.
how you and your family actually celebrate Eid.
We all go to the mosque in the morning. You have something sweet to eat in the morning, and then it's a day you spend with your family, visiting family and friends. It's a day of celebration.
Hajj is so important, and many people will be coming back from that.
Well, Hajj is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Every Muslim who can afford to do so once in a lifetime is required to go to Mecca, and many of your constituents and people across the country have been going to Mecca to perform pilgrimage, and they're returning now after Hajj.
But
Ladies and gentlemen, the Mayor of London.
with visas, and obviously, you know, if we are able to come in and form a government, I think we're going to have to increase the quota. Have you picked this up as well?
The Saudi government has reduced the numbers of people who are able to go to Hajj from this country. So many who want to go, who can afford to go,
And it's
can't
such a
go.
big and important thing that there's a real frustration that people are not being able to go.
So anything we can do to lobby the Saudi government to get more places for British Muslims
Don't forget the music in the background as well.
would be appreciated.
Because it's Eid, it is also a time, I think, where all of us are able to celebrate the, you know, incredible contribution that Muslims have made to our country. We see it in business, we see it in culture, we see a better Britain. One of the things that is coming up over and over again is Islamophobia. And, well, you can see the stats, you can see the numbers rising, particularly since October the 7th. Although we shouldn't fall into the trap of thinking that before October the 7th, this was all heading in the right direction. It's been...
So on October the 7th, over 1,000 innocent Jewish people were murdered. And he's talking about Islamophobia.
far too high for far too long. Clearly, we need to just say over and over again, Islamophobia is intolerable. It can never, ever be justified. And we have to continue with a zero tolerance approach. And I think there's more we can do in government. There's certainly stuff.
And he did, didn't he?
Yeah, well, can you just pause that there?
Yeah, sure, Richard.
I think that sentence where he said Islamophobia is intolerable. Let's just take the phobia out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much more robustly than it is at the moment.
What I'm hoping, Kira, is your experience as a prosecutor means you'll be thinking about the strategy we can use to make sure we take action against those who break the law.
There's a massive impact on people and their lives, their feeling about being able to walk around their own, communities, their streets.
You'd think he'd be talking about the Jewish community like this, wouldn't you?
Not Lola.
With the music, the sad music in the background. And
What excites me, though, is I've been campaigning across the country. We've got so many Labour candidates who are Muslim, who are Hindu, who are Sikh, who are Jewish, who are Christian. I think, our candidates are the most diverse we've ever had.
It's the best team I think the Labour Party has ever put forward for an election. But look, this is a time of...
He's a funny guy.
that's brilliant. Should we play that bit again? That's worth a replay, isn't it? Hold on a minute.
best team I think the Labour Party has ever put forward for an election. But look, this is a time of great celebration, and I do say Eid Mubarak, my friend.
And Susan, was it Susan that asked that question? I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think the real answer lies here, doesn't it?
Islam, my own religion, like a lot of practicing Muslims, my faith is the most important thing in my life. It is the absolute driver of
Not British law, not keeping the peace, not looking after the nation, but a religion.
everything that I do. I feel a very strong calling of my own conscience, and my conscience calls me to God. That is how.
And we know what your conscience tells you because we've seen you on the marches.
Islam, my own religion, like a lot of practicing Muslims, my faith is the most important thing in my life. It is.
Richard, I've seen enough. There's the answer to the question, isn't it?
I mean, the question is, Paul, I mean, it really is. I mean, I don't know if you saw Ben's video yesterday. Ben did a video basically not going into a great deal of detail about this, but saying, look, we need massive change in the country politically. And this is the thing that really worries me, Paul. Reform are riding high in the polls at the minute. They're on 33, 34%. Reform is being massively influenced by Islamic thinking, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm not saying for a minute that Zia Yusuf is an extremist or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But here's what we do know, right? Can't hear you, Paul. You're muted, mate. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that. To be fair, Richard, let's be clear about Zia Yusuf. He's not a bad guy, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He's not. I mean, he's not some sort of radical Islamist. He's not.
No.
But the problem is that Farage has not backtracked from one statement that he made. I think it was on Winston Marshall or one of the interviews. It could have been the interview he did with the guy from GB News, where he said, "We can't beat Islam. It's going to take over anyway. We've got just get used to it. Just suck it up." Basically, that's pretty much what I mean. I'm paraphrasing, but we've all seen the little clip. Now, that's not acceptable, Paul, and I'll tell you why it's not acceptable. Because when I get bored saying this. I really get bored saying this. We all know that not every single Muslim in the country is a radical, but Paul, you're muted again, mate. Just so you know. But we know from the Henry Jackson polling last year, which was very, very precise in the questioning. You muted again. Very precise in the questioning. 32% of Muslims in the country, minimum of 32%, want Sharia law. We know that for a fact. Over 50% want any depiction, any images depicting Muhammad in the UK to be banned. Now, and there's loads of other stuff. There was stuff about, more than 70% didn't believe that that Hamas were responsible for the atrocities on October the 7th, and on it goes. I mean, we don't have to go over that. 42% of the mosques are Deobandi, 8% are Salafi, and there's another 2 or 3% that are different sort of extremist branches of Sunni Islam. That's not even counting the Shias. So the truth of the matter is to keep saying, oh well, most Muslims aren't like this or like that. That's probably true. The majority, maybe 60%, don't want Sharia law. But it's safe to say that the majority of mosques in the country are certainly on the very conservative spectrum of Islam, which is what militates towards this sort of behavior. So it's like a sort of, it's like a gateway drug, isn't it? It's like, people start smoking weed and then they go on to something else. Then they ended up, heroin addicts. It's that sort of sliding scale. So what do we do? What do we do when over 50% of the mosques in the UK are what we would call extremists? What do you do?
The problem, Richard, here's the problem that I've got, and I've not said this before. I'm gonna reveal something today that is upsetting for me and very worrying as well.
Yeah.
I'll be careful how I say this. Yeah. because I don't want this to be about bashing you know, backing
Yeah.
the Muslim people. I don't want it to be about.
It's never about
but
the people, Paul. It's about the
it's not-
ideology.
exactly. But here's the deal, Richard, and this is what's really starting to eat away at me. When I was in the watch business,
Yeah.
I had dozens and dozens and dozens of good friends who are Muslim.
Yeah.
They come from all over the Middle East, from all over the world.
Yeah.
And these were some of my closest friends.
Yeah.
I ate with them, I socialised with them, we travelled abroad together, we had a wonderful time together. Since I've started talking about what I talk about, not a single one of them has called me or messaged me.
Yeah.
Not one.
Yeah.
There has been no solidarity. There has been no understanding. There has been no messages of, Paul, we love you, brother, like they used to say to me, we love you like a brother, you know, you're such a good guy. But not one of them has found it in their hearts to message me and say, Paul, you know what? We may not agree on politics and what's going on in Palestine, etc., but you're still our brother. You know, we still love you.
Yeah.
You know, let's meet up. Let's have a beer. Let's have a, you know, let's have a coffee, whatever. Not a single one of them, Richard.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing, Paul. If I could, Paul, if I can go through this, this was polling. Now, the Henry Jackson Society is a right-wing think tank, but it's very well respected. The polling was carried out by a well-respected polling organisation. I'm just going to go through some of the headlines from this one, the 8th of April, 2024. So I would imagine the polling hasn't really changed that much. So that what I'm saying, I'm not pulling the figures out of my head because sometimes you can get things wrong with memory. But let's just go through this very quickly. And this is from Henry Jackson. Says this, almost half of British Muslims say Jews have too much power over UK government policy, with similar numbers thinking the same for US foreign policy. Then it says, British Muslims are more likely to have a positive than a negative view of Hamas, which is a prescribed terrorist organization in the UK, as we know. Nearly half of British Muslims would back the removal of an MP if they took a different stance to them on the Israel-Palestine issue. 52% of Muslims polled want to make it illegal to show a picture of the Prophet Muhammad in the UK. I'm sure if you said, if you put change the wording of that question and said, what about if somebody insults Muhammad? What happens to them? You know, 32% of British Muslims favour the implementation of Sharia law, and the same number, the declaration of Islam as the national religion of the UK. And this is the worrying thing, Paul. This is the worrying thing. Extreme views were generally more likely to be found in the youngest age cohort of 18 to 34 and among graduates of all ages as opposed to non-graduates. And then it says, and British-born rather than foreign-born Muslims. So the British-born Muslims are more radical than the foreign-born Muslims.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and it just says that this is suggesting that integration is not working, etc., etc. So, you know, these aren't things that have been, you know, spewed out of you know, some Islamophobe's brain, right? I don't believe in Islamophobes, by the way, but you know, this is polling, and I've looked at the polling data at least since 9/11, possibly before it, because I've been on this for a very, very long time, probably longer than anyone in the movement. And the reality is that the polling and the thinking has not changed, and in fact, in a lot of cases, it's got far worse.
Yeah, and it's going to be getting worse, isn't it? Because people are being radicalized.
Well, Paul, that's what I was going to say. This was before and this is what people have got to understand. The danger, and Paul, I am a free speech absolutist, and I'm never going to say that I don't want the BBC talking about this sort of stuff. But what I want the BBC to do is talk about it in a balanced way. And they don't talk about it in a balanced way. The BBC coverage of what's happening in the Middle East and in Israel is always skewed against Israel. Always. They've even put out things that are completely untrue. I don't know if you remember the one about the hospital bombing,
Yeah.
where they said it had been struck with a missile. Yeah, it had been struck with a missile. It was a Hamas missile that misfired. You know, so all of this sort of stuff is adding into this
Well,
febrile atmosphere.
we seen proof of that this morning, Richard. Don't forget, this guy named Jihad was a British man of Syrian descent.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
he came to the UK when he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
That does not make him a British man of Syrian descent. It makes him a Syrian with a British passport.
Exactly.
Let me just get through some of the new members. Thank you, Susan, Roger, Spellbinder, and Murder of Crow. Thank you very much. Really appreciated. And Rachel UK also thank you. Maureen says they shot him knowing he had a bomb on him, not knowing if it was a dummy. What if it was real and the bullet hit it?
Exactly the point.
Well, they're probably better shots than that, to be fair. Grey 007. James O'Brien talking about Islamophobia this morning. Well, what would you expect? The man is an enemy of the state. And LBC are right up there now with the BBC, as far as I'm concerned, with their hard left, pro-Palestine, anti-Israel array of broadcasters. We should start to boycott all of LBC's sponsors and advertisers.
I agree 100%.
Thank you, Phil. World War III has started and it's an insidious psychological warfare. Blimey, there are two long words there for this time of the morning. Technology and media are tools governments are facilitating and enabling these crimes. Phil, next time you write a message like that, my friend, I think I'll get Richard to read it out. They're long words for me. Thank you, Corinne and Mark Bowen. I really appreciate the support, and you too, Alison. Look, Richard.
Yeah, can I just say, Paul? It's just a technical
fire
point.
away.
It's not to do with the conflict. Anyone that's leaving super chats on my channel, massively appreciate it. Keep doing it. Paul can actually pick them up because they should be. I think they're appearing in Paul's
I pick them
chat
all up,
side of things. So if you're leaving super chats there, we will get through them all. And again, thank you for that, because obviously it just helps us do this, because as they say, time is money, and we spend a massive amount of time researching and talking on these videos. So I do appreciate everyone that supported me with that.
Richard, my appeal last night on my late night live stream, I just couldn't go to bed last night without having something to say. And the message last night, really, from me, was to our Muslim communities across the country is now is the time to start showing some solidarity. It's time to start stepping up to the plate. We keep being told that the vast majority of Muslims stand with us and with the United Kingdom, but I'm afraid I'm not seeing much evidence of it.
Well, Paul, the truth of the matter is that the polling would say something different. Unfortunately, the polling would say something different. And again, I would imagine when you're doing a poll, if a white pollster's, phoning up or knocking on the door of a Muslim lady or gentleman, ask them questions on some very, very spicy issues, I would say a lot of them probably wouldn't be completely honest in what they're saying, because I think that happens with all polling. You don't want to come across as an extremist or as a nutcase, so you're going to try and be more moderate than you probably really are. But even with all that being set aside, the polling that I've just went through there, Paul, and like I say, this has been done for years. We're in an extremely difficult situation. Let's just put it that way. We're in an extremely difficult situation. I think there are solutions, there are answers, but again, we need a government that's got the will to do the things that need to be done. And I think, when it comes to Islam, the UAE, Dubai, I think, been the prime example, seems to manage to keep a lid on these people. But to do that, they've got to pass some very repressive laws. Now, this is the thing that I think needs to be addressed by whatever government gets into power next. Those laws, sadly, should not apply to Hindus or Sikhs or Jews or Christians or atheists, because the laws that would probably need to be passed would be things like banning Sharia courts, banning halal slaughter, banning halal halal food, banning extremist preaching in mosques. Now, that must be applied just to Islam, and I'll tell you why. Because the reality is, why should Sikhs, Jews, and Christians be penalised for extremism that's coming from one religion? And if there are moderate Muslims, and there are, we know there are. We've got friends who are moderate Muslims. Shohab's a prime example of, but Shohab gets more abuse from his supposedly own community than he does from anybody else. He's, we've got loads of
well, look at Lubna. Look what happened to Lubna.
Lubna's a prime example. And I've got a lot of ex-Muslim friends and people who are moderate Muslims who are absolutely terrified. I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. When we first started the veterans group in 2017, there was Bangladeshi woman. I'll not say where she was from or what her name was, but she got involved in the movement, and because she realized we were against all extremism, and that's what we were very clear about what we stood for. And she messaged us into our group, and the last message she sent us said, "I can't do this anymore. My brothers have threatened to kill me. I have to stop." And we didn't know her full name. We didn't know her real identity. She kept that hidden, which was very wise. And we don't know what happened to her. We genuinely don't know what happened to that woman. She could, for all we know, she's been taken back to wherever. And so there's a very real sense of intimidation, especially of women in these very conservative communities. What do they call that program that was on? Long-running program on Channel 4 where the women were being oppressed. It was set in America, but that's the situation that Muslim women are facing throughout the Middle East. But also, in the tragedy of this is that there are Muslim women getting killed in honor killings in the UK, and it's not just the old one here and there. It's happened on a number of occasions. So to me, if parts of that religion are incompatible with a Western liberal democracy, I don't even like the word liberal democracy, a Western democracy and a Christian country, then, if you rub the fur the wrong way, it's the cap that's got to turn around, Paul. Do you know what I mean?
I've got a big question for you in a minute, Richard. It's a big question, and it's a very difficult one to ask because I want to make this very clear. And I think I know that I speak for Richard as well when I say this, but we're not looking for confrontation. We don't want confrontation. It's the last thing that we want. We want peace, harmony, and happiness, and we all want to live together. And as I said last night, send our kids to school so they can get on and socialise and grow up in a happy UK. That's what we want. The problem is that they seem to be bringing it to us.
Yeah.
They are putting it on us every day of the week now. They're putting it on us. There's no other way of describing it. So the big question is, Richard, right across Europe and further into places like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, possibly the United States, but is it getting to the point now where these countries have got to make a definitive choice as to what their future is going to look like?
Oh, I think absolutely, Paul. I think absolutely. I mean, I think the reality is I think this is where Christianity comes into this. There's Christianity is a very safe religion, despite what people tell you. This is why I get annoyed when people say, "Oh, well, extreme Christianity is as bad as Islam." No, it's not. Because if you're extremely Christian, you like Jesus. If you're extremely Muslim, you like Muhammad, right? That's just the reality of the situation. Put those two personalities next to each other. There's no comparison. One was a paedophile murderer and whatever else you want to stack up his crimes, and the other one was someone who preached peace, healed the sick, and then died for the sins of the world. So that comparison, I've heard it so many times, a completely false comparison. But here's the thing about why Christianity is important in all this. Whether you're a Christian or not, it's not the issue. But even what we call cultural Christianity, which I think our movement is very big on, you're commanded to love your enemies. Now that is a very, very difficult thing to do. when people have really done me wrong, my initial reaction is you go from naught to homicide in about 30 seconds. And then you hear that little voice in the back of your head saying, love your enemies. Yeah. And that is, I'm sure that has kept me out of prison. Right. But that, if you do that on a national scale, so let's say we have a real problem with, I don't know, a certain sect, right, of Islam that is very, very extreme. You've still got to deal with those people with compassion, with love. And I know a lot of people won't want to hear this after a terrorist attack, but that doesn't mean you're soft either. So if it comes to the situation where we have to say, okay, if you're living in this country and you want this country to be ruled by Sharia law, well, we're going to ask you to leave. We're actually going to give you money to leave. We're not going to put you on cattle trucks and haul you off to internment camps. We're going to do this in a very compassionate and Christian way, but we are going to ask you to leave this country if you're trying to turn this country into Mogadishu, Afghanistan, or even Pakistan. Because we don't want that, Paul. We don't want Bradford to become a cold and damp version of the Hindu Kush or of Kashmir. We don't want that. We just don't want it. And unfortunately, that's what it's become. So,
and you know what, Richard? I think this is the problem as well. I don't actually think that the Muslim youth would want that. They're too used to the way of the Western lifestyle, the cars, the bits and bobs they get involved in. Go on.
Sorry, Paul. Let me just take you back to the Henry Jackson report. Yeah. Extreme views were generally more likely to be found in the youngest age cohort of 18 to 34. Among graduates, so these are the most educated people in the Muslim community, among graduates of all ages. Now, you could really do a deep dive into that and I might actually do another video on that because it's worth revisiting that, I think, because again,
look, Richard, I understand the statistics and I heard what you said, but I think deep down, would they really want all the women dressed in burqa? No, because they like looking at them.
Well, and that's why we've got, I mean, you know, well, I mean, look, we'll maybe agree to differ on that, but I mean, I think you've got to go with the stats, not what we feel, not what we think. It's what, you know, facts don't care about our feelings or our emotions. It's what the reality is. And again, that cuts both ways. So we've got to go, okay, we've got to be very calm about this, but we do need a plan of dealing with radical, fundamentalist Islam, which, I mean, Ben Habib, look, Ben's father was Muslim. He's born in Pakistan. He's half Pakistani. If you remember when we wrote the pledge, Ben was absolutely adamant that we had the words fundamentalist Islam inserted into the pledge, because I think we were kind of talking just vaguely about extremism. Ben says, no, fundamentalism's the problem. So Ben gets it. And I think
he's a Christian, though. To make it clear to everyone, Ben is a Christian.
Well, yes, you're baptized. Yeah, he is. Oh, absolutely. But the thing is, he understands Pakistani culture because he grew up in it, Paul. He also grew up seeing what happened when a country changed from a fairly tolerant Anglophile country, which it obviously was because of the empire, and that's another story. You know, if you've ever been to parts of Africa that have turned into absolute hellholes when the Brits have pulled out, you will find the elders who saw the transition from empire to dictatorship and to civil war said we were far better off under the British Empire. I know that's a whole other story. But
Richard, you know what? I see a great tweet yesterday from someone that said, well, if we take Shabana Mahmood at her word, if you can just go to any country you like in the world and become so if I can just come to Spain and suddenly become Spanish, well then
Pablo.
When the British went to places like India, well, when they arrived, they automatically became Indian.
Pablo El Thorpo.
Geordie Hunter, thank you, Geordie Hunter. Labour wants multiculturalism, but it's impossible with the ingredients, very much so. Especially when he protects the one community that needs to be called out the most. Well, look, Geordie, I agree, and I think one of the reasons that they do this, and Richard may not agree with this, but I believe one of the reasons that radical Islam is treated with such kid gloves is because the security services are scared shitless of them.
Totally.
Scared shitless.
Absolutely. You see, the problem that we've got is, Paul, we don't know what's going on in the deep state. And when I'm talking about the deep state, there's a podcast that Harrison Pitt did with Michael Gove. And Michael Gove talks about the deep state, and he says it's MI6, MI5, the security services, that sort of. But there's something bigger than that. And I'm not getting conspiratorial. But what happens is they did it with Northern Ireland with a peace process. An agenda is set. And once that agenda has been set, it doesn't really matter what the government is. It's going to take a huge amount of effort to push back in the opposite direction. This is why Brexit was so controversial, because the deep state had set everything up for us to just become a little province of the European empire, right? And these people, I think, are traitors, to be honest with you. They're saying they're doing it for the common good. Now, the reason I mentioned that, Tommy Robinson did a video with Dan Wootton. And there's one thing that I picked up, because we all know Tommy's story. We've heard it 1,000 times. But there's one thing that I picked up out of that interview with Dan Wootton that I hadn't heard before. And it was when Tommy, with an intermediary from the Church of England, surprise, surprise, I think it was the Bishop of Pontefract, set up a meeting between Dear Bandy leaders and Tommy and other leaders of the EDL, right? So they sat down, they had a face-to-face, and I think Tommy said it was a bit of a waste of time because obviously it was an impossible, you couldn't square the circle. But this was the thing that really made my ears prick up. And I haven't spoken to Tommy about this, and I actually need to speak to him. I'd love to get him on an interview and drill down to what exactly was said here and if I understood this right. But what Tommy said, that the bishop said, who was in touch with the security services as an intermediary, the bishop said the security services told him the Dear Bandy were the future of the UK.
Wow.
Now, I want you to think about that. Now, did he mean... And this is where I need to drill down and find out exactly what Tommy was told. And it'd be great if anyone, else was in on that conversation, because I'd love to know exactly what was said. Because obviously, I'm not just relying on Tommy's memory. Is like it's like relying on my memory. None of our memories are perfect. But if that's the case, then that's extremely chilling, Paul. The future of the UK, and it's on Dan Wootton's interview. The future of the UK is Dear Bandy. That's what the Bishop of Pontefract told Tommy. Did they mean the future of Islam in the UK is Dear Bandy? Because even if they meant that, that's massively problematic. Because the Dear Bandy are the Dear Bandy madrasas were providing the foot soldiers for the Taliban from the war against the Russians onwards, right? So yeah, I mean, I think there's some very deep stuff that needs to be looked at, and to me, that's unacceptable. And is that why Farage said we can't win this? Paul, Farage is a deep state man. Farage is not what he seems. We know that. He's part of the establishment. He's part of the Uni Party. And if you look at the direction of travel since 9/11 has been to placate and to accommodate and to treat like the spoiled little child. Anytime Mohammed, spits out his dummy and starts kicking and screaming. In fact, anytime there's a tea attack and people are killed or injured, the first thing that almost comes out of any prime minister's mouth is we must do everything we can to protect our Muslim friends from right-wing extremists who don't exist. So these are massive questions, right? And I think the reason that we're probably getting heat from the state and from the deep state ourselves is because we're asking the wrong questions and we're coming up with the wrong answers for them. But I think we're asking the right questions and we're coming up with the right answers.
The game is up in many respects, isn't it? I mean, it's up. Let me get through a couple of these.
Let me push back on that quickly, Paul. I don't think the game is up, right? Because
for them, I'm talking about the game is up for the authorities trying to hide it from us.
Because we all know, and these are why these really deep strategic questions need to be asked. Because I don't want my country to even have a Dear Bandy Muslim majority, let alone to have the country run by the Dear Bandy in 50 years' time. I'll be dead, you'll be dead, but our grandkids and great grandkids won't, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for me. I could just have a nice, easy life now. You could as well, Paul. We could have a lot easier life if we weren't involved in all this.
Yeah.
But to me, it's our seed is what we're doing this for, you know.
Absolutely, Richard, and there's no other way of putting it. You're entirely correct. Jackie, thank you, Jackie. Richard, quite a lot of these supers are coming through on your channel, I believe.
Well, thanks to everyone that's doing that. That's massively appreciated. Really appreciate it, guys.
Watched AY audits last night. He followed the coach from Canary Wharf, dropping migrants off to hotels at 3 in the morning. They made 3 drop-offs, one across the road from a school. Going to be the next tragedy. Oh. Kelly Russell, thank you, Kelly. If the government can't keep the relatively small Jewish community safe, how can they keep the entire UK safe? Jews are fleeing the UK when they came here for safety. It's beyond shameful. Absolutely. And thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
If we could pivot back to the Jewish community, Paul. I mean, I you know, a lot of people say they have a lot of Jewish friends. I genuinely have a lot of Jewish friends. You know, I stay with, you know, my friend Ian. You know, invariably when I come across, and Ian's a tough guy. He's not a pushover. He's not easily scared, and he's not scared. But Ian's saying that him and all his friends are thinking, do we move? Do we go? You know, I was talking to another of my Jewish friends, Harvey, and he was saying, look, if it gets bad, you know, I'm off to Israel. And he said, anyway, he says, Richard, you can come to Israel with us. I can become.
Richard, I spoke to about half a dozen of my Jewish friends, funnily enough, who do still call me, unlike my Muslim friends that I was very, very close with. And it upsets me greatly because you know what? There were some lovely friends there that I miss. I miss them as people. I miss their friendship and their warmth. I don't suspect any of them of being involved in anything nefarious. I believe they're all good people with good hearts. But why are they no longer calling me?
Exactly.
When I've never ever said or done anything bad toward or about their community, we've just highlighted the dangers. And if we're gonna continue to live in peace together, these issues need to be sorted. Tim Jacks, a good friend of mine from down there on the south coast, says Ant will not win. Ant will not win. Only 35% of Londoners are now seen as, I guess you'll say, indigenous British. I'm not so sure, Tim, and I'll tell you why. I think there's plenty of people that you may not class necessarily as indigenous British that will vote for Ant, because this is now, for me, it's not about race. It's never been about race.
No.
Ever.
Look, Ant's going to get the Black Christian vote if he plays this right. Ant will get the Black Christian vote without a shadow of doubt, and we'll do anything that we can to help him do that. I don't care. You know, I'll be honest with you. I hope Ant stands as an independent, which he's pretty much said he's going to do, because that means what should happen is if Ant stands as an independent, then UKIP, Advance, SDP, Conservative Party, Reform Party should all get behind Ant Middleton. Nobody should stand against him. If Ant's going to stand as an independent, he should have a complete free reign on the right. And I think if he had that, it would make a massive difference. And, you know, I believe he'll be able to get the Jewish community certainly supporting him, Hindus, Sikhs, quite possibly the Black Christian community if he plays his cards right. And also, you know, let's see these moderate Muslims put up or shut up. If you're moderate and you want law and order in your town, vote for Ant Middleton. You know, you know, Ant comes out of Dubai, so Ant's not an Islamophobe. You know, I mean, come on. You know, so there is no reason why Ant couldn't actually win that that election. And you know, it's like people have said this about Advance. Advance hasn't got a chance in the next election. Well, let's just wait and see. You know, we're 4 years out. We're 4 years out.
Mm. Yeah, it's a culture, not a race. It's not about race, but it is to them. Richard, you know, I just get the feeling, obviously I'm not at home and I haven't been now for the best part of 6 months, but I get the feeling that the atmosphere, everyone that speaks to me from back home, and obviously I speak to people every day back home, it's hard to describe the way that people are feeling right now. You could call it anger, frustration. You could call it fear, dread, depression. All of these things are all words that are mentioned to me when I speak to people back at home. Where is the government must know this. They must feel it. They must sense it. The polls are telling them it quite clearly. Keir Starmer is by far the most unpopular Prime Minister of all time. So the question is, what are they going to do to reverse it? And this is why, with all due respect, making Shabana Mahmood Home Secretary was frankly taking the piss out of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was taking the goddamn piss out of us.
Totally.
And did nothing to firm up social cohesion, but in fact sowed more division, because the fear levels get higher, the resentment gets higher, and of course, to me, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, but I'm entitled to have it, it emboldens those that we saw out on our streets last night. Why would those pro-Palestine protesters fear our law when their Home Secretary is one of their own?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, it's not just that, Paul. If you look at the way they attacked the police, you know, pushing through that police line at the where the vehicle's been put across the road, the police were totally unprepared for that. Now, you look at the way the police were tooled up for our demonstration. To be fair, like I don't have a lot of complaints about the Met public order policing of our demonstration. You know, I know there are some complaints about all sorts of things about that demonstration, but normally by ignorant people who don't have a clue what was going on. You know, I know exactly what was going on. So I think, but the reality is, if those cops last night had riot shields and batons and, you know, everything else that they would have needed to stop those people breaking through the police lines, those people wouldn't have got through the police lines. I just think it's very sinister. On the day when there's been a genocidal attempt at murder and 2 murders actually carried out and 3 people in hospital in serious conditions, that these people thought it was okay to go out on the streets and justify it. And I've heard them on the radio this morning justifying it. Yeah. I heard the leader of the Green Party justifying. I mean, what the hell has happened to the Green Party? Yeah. The Green Party used to be vegetable rights and peace. Now it's vegetable rights and Hamas. It's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I don't know, Paul. You know, where do we go from here with all this stuff? I think we've got to double down on what we're doing, because it's very easy to get dragged off course. You know, it's very easy to say, well, they're doing demos, we're going to do counter demos to all their demos. And there's a certain amount of logic in that. I get all that. But all that's going to do is basically fill prison cells, right? As we know, and it's going to get people nicked. I mean, when we went there on 10th of November, the Armistice Day one, and you know, it was the right thing to do, have a show of force. But the problem is a whole lot of people went to prison because of that. You know, little message on screen for you there, Richard, if you have a read of that, mate. Richard, ask Paul why I'm on a timeout, please. I said nothing to. Oh, you shouldn't be, mate. Sorry, mate. Hang on. I don't have access to the stream. I don't think here. Let me have a look.
But just while you deal with that, Richard, I've got to say this.
I actually don't know how to deal with it on my whatchamacallit. Do you know what, mate? I genuinely don't know what's happened, and I can't change stuff on Paul's chat. So I don't know if
thank you, Tony. Well, he's obviously not timed out on my one.
No, well, I can't do it. I'm not sure what's happened because I can't.
Black Rifle model works. The law doesn't work anymore. The country needs a strong leader and strong men to enforce martial law to sort out this mess once and for all. And thank you for the super. There's no more today, guys. Thank you. No more supers today because we will be wrapping it up shortly. But Richard, look, frankly,
just getting back to that thing with Farty Pants, you're not in timeout as far as I can see. on my channel. So I honestly don't know what's going on there unless YouTube's done something to you. I definitely haven't, mate. So
Richard, I am frankly sick and tired of the whole goddamn thing, and our people, our followers, the people across the country, they have to have some legal, decent way of fighting back. We cannot just continue to do these streams and say, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. We have to give them something to do in a way in which they can feel they are making a difference. And I'm going to start by saying that we need a campaign right across social media to start boycotting the advertisers of companies like LBC, of Channel 4.
Yeah,
We can't do that with the BBC because obviously they don't have advertisers as such. But we can certainly start off with organisations like LBC and Channel 4 and ITV as well, because they're just as bad. And by the way, fancy having Ed Balls as a so-called neutral commentator on their programmes in the morning. So look, we can boycott their advertisers, hit them where it hurts in the pocket. The left play extremely dirty tricks. If someone was to sponsor me on this channel, their business would be finished within 5 minutes, because the left would get onto Google on the review section and made sure that their business was destroyed.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting that we do that to these advertisers, because we are not the left. We don't play dirty tricks like that. But we are perfectly entitled to boycott and to even write to the companies that are feeding this narrative into our nation and tell them that we're not happy, we're not going to buy their products, we're not going to listen to their radio stations. I know it's not much, but it's legal, it's decent, it's clean, and it's something that we can all do.
Well, I totally agree with that. I think there's a lot we can do. I mean, you know, I don't know if we're going to do our demo tonight, because it's absolutely it's the first storm of the year. It's meant to be at 80-mile-an-hour winds across here in Northern Ireland. But I'll be standing out with an Israel flag at the next events I'm going to, the next demos I'm going to. There is an event on the 5th of November. It's Justin Smith's got in touch with me about it a little while ago, and I think that's one that's definitely worth attending, because it's going to be outside Downing Street. No, sorry, not outside Downing Street, outside Parliament on the 5th of November, and that'll be PMQs. So definitely, there's, you know, I do believe 100% in the right to protest, and so I think
would you ban the pro-Palestine marches?
No, I wouldn't,
now?
Paul. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I would police them in a lot more robust fashion if there was anyone, people making chants that are genocidal chants, like From the River, which I think From the Rivers to the Sea is direct incitement to kill.
We know what it means. We know what it means.
You know, and the worst one is globalize the Intifada. That's what happened yesterday. They globalized the Intifada. The Intifada was vehicles driving into Jews in Israel and getting out and stabbing them. That's what the Intifada was.
And that's what they were chanting. They were chanting that yesterday evening as well.
They were chanting globalize the Intifada. They chanted it the night before the attack, and they chanted it the night of the attack. It's absolutely reprehensible. I think when it comes to right to protest, I believe in the right to peaceful, legitimate protest, as long as there's not being direct incitement to violence. But I think we're getting to the stage now where, and this is where I am going to change my stance slightly, right? So that vile, disgusting middle class, I don't even know what he is. What's his name? The rapper, the horrible, grubby looking rapper.
Oh, Bob Violent.
Bob Violent.
He's in Manchester, I believe, in a couple of weeks.
Is he? Well, do you know what? Maybe there should be a counter protest outside his. You know, maybe we should play them at their own game. Yeah. Counter protest. Get in touch with the venue. Say we don't want him here. If he's going to be here, we're going to do a counter demo. So that's one for people in Manchester. That's something you lot can do. We'll be doing demos in Belfast over the next few weeks and months, and I think there's going to be a big Palestinian demo in Belfast on the 11th of October. So I think we just need to start countering their demos and countering them in big numbers. But I think when it comes to Bob Villain, when he's chanting death to the IDF, Well, I think that's incitement. I think it is. I'm sure that's got to have crossed the line of incitement. He's calling on people to kill Jewish people because so many Jewish people in the UK have served in the IDF because they've got dual nationality and they're on the reserves. So,
well, Richard, I'm sure if we chanted that something like that on this channel, it would be about 30 seconds before they were knocking our doors.
Yeah, imagine if you replaced IDF with the Muslim Council of Britain or something like that. You would have your collar felt without a shadow of a doubt.
Let's be fair. People would say, well, the Muslim Council of Great Britain are not an army. But what I would say is, if I was to say that about Hamas.
Yeah, well, Hamas are a terrorist organisation.
Well, but Richard, they arrested a 40-odd-year-old man the other night in his house at 9:30 at night.
Yeah,
they're the same thing.
Yeah, well, this is the point. I mean, the point, and when it comes to the Muslim Council of Britain, they are not allowed to be in dialogue with the British government because they're deemed to be, a little bit unpalatable. Let's just put it that way. So there's no official dialogue between the Muslim Council of Britain and the British government. So that says all you really need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does indeed. Nina Vanava. Good afternoon, Nina, the lovely Nina. Hi, my lovelies. I'm from Cyprus. I'm in Cyprus to get away from it all and noticed it happening here slowly. Wow. Thank you, Nina. Enjoy your lovely break. AY Audits is in the chat again. Good job last night. I see you out and about there. Lots of people talking about that.
And AY is it AY the one that got the hassle from Channel 4?
Yeah.
Well done, AY, and I think you made them look like mugs on that Channel 4 program. So well done, mate.
Look, the bottom line is that whether you like these auditors, whether you like what they do,
I think they're great.
Whether you like them as persons or personalities, you know what? None of it matters. Look, everyone should appreciate that these guys are putting their safety on the line. Are they getting paid? Sure, it's their job. What is wrong with people? If anyone wants to take over their position and if anyone wants to do what AY does and Charlie and whatever else, if they want to do that and put themselves in danger, go do it.
Exactly. Look, I mean, and this is the whole thing. I mean, what's happening with all this is, and this is where we've got to be very careful. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about banning marches, and the excuse they gave was, I think there's going to be one march about. Hi, Mickey. How are you, mate? I just realised who that was. Hi, Mickey. The banning marches because of the lack of police resources in the UK. Now, that's not acceptable. If you can't cover the security if you can't cover the counter-terrorism role, fine, get the military to do it. That's what the military's there for, to help the police if you're lacking in. So I wouldn't have a problem having a soldier outside a church or outside a synagogue to protect it from some nut job that's going to come in with a knife or a bomb strapped to them.
Are we heading, Richard? Last question for the day. Do you see a time in the future where we'll see troops on the streets?
Oh, well, we've already seen it. I mean, the SES were deployed yesterday.
Yeah,
they flew in a helicopter. I mean, they're not overtly, and the bomb disposal were there. So that was all. That was straight out of Northern Ireland. I mean, it's. I personally believe what will have to happen. There'll have to be a home guard raised in the UK. I think there'll have to be an armed state.
You just want to be Captain Mannering, don't you? I know, I've got you sussed.
Mr. Mannering. No, I think who can we have as Captain Mannering? We'll work that one out. I think you'd be Uncle Arthur. Uncle Arthur.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Danny can be Godfrey.
Guys, we'll actually do that one, I think, for the next live. We'll get all the characters of Dad's Army.
You think you are kidding, Mr. Starmer?
Do you want to finish that one off, Richard? You got quite a good voice there. I'm quite impressed. Have you ever thought about Britain's Got Talent?
Listen, I've got loads of talent, mate, but not in singing, unfortunately. I might take some singing lessons. Then I'll be able to sing my own songs.
I've just got a text message off your wife. She said, "Paul, can you ask Richard what talent is that exactly?"
I've told her to stop texting you, Paul. I've told her about that, mate. You know what I mean? She was very excited. She said, "Did you see Paul's live stream last night?" I says, "No." Oh, it's brilliant. He's done a great job.
Richard, make another song. That's from Sheila. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Look, at the moment, I am in the middle of...
By the way, guys, the song is with the publisher at the minute. The song will be getting published by a record label very, very soon. It's got its own little cover based on the march that we had on the 13th. So it is going to be out very, very soon, and we'll see how it goes. We want it to get at least as high as Ricky's song did. So it needs to be at least number 2 in the download chart. So we'll let everyone know when that happens.
Guys, before we go, please don't forget to do all the usual YouTubey stuff, like, share and subscribe and all that nonsense. Now, you can help me out. This is how you can help me out, guys. Because, as I say, the algorithm is playing some very nasty tricks with my videos at the moment. And I'm in the middle at the moment, Richard. I'm not even sure right now whether to even bother making any videos. Just continue with the lives. I mean, my last video, which I can consider to be quite a strong video, it's had 11,000 views. I used to get that in the first hour.
Yeah, I've noticed the same with mine. On my, even on my channel with 50,000 subs, they're getting 5,000-6,000 views on the videos. Now, interestingly, this is where there's obviously some sort of political interference with YouTube, because when October the 7th happened, I was making some really strong videos, and they were getting hundreds of thousands of views. They were absolutely smashing it, and I think that's because of what had happened, and because obviously there was maybe some lobbying going on saying, look, we need to show how evil and dark this was. I don't know. It just seemed very strange. Maybe it's because it was the mood of the time, but I think there is strange stuff going on with YouTube and Twitter. None of it makes sense, the way that you see some people get elevated. And let's get it right, a lot of people can barely speak a sentence and they're getting hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I'm going, there's something wrong, man. I've
got a message here from one of my American friends. His name is Ali. I won't read out his full name, and it just says, "Hey Paul, catching you and Richard live right now from the airport. Always watch your replays. I'd like to tell you 2 things from my perspective, bearing in mind my name might suggest I know a little bit about Islam and Islamists. I encourage you to consider not using the phrase radical Islam, because it implies there is a moderate or progressive Islam when there is not. What I mean by this is there is no reputable or moderate leadership in Islam. Anything resembling that are considered useful idiots by Islamic leadership, until the time comes when those moderates who are already maligned will be eliminated as well. As the UK goes, so will the US. Right now, it looks like MAGA and MAHA have momentum, but the mind virus of the schools is far too gone. We have to fix it in the UK and in the US at the same time to have hope. Churchill levels of resolve are needed. God bless Paul. God bless the UK. Ali, thank you so much. One of my very good friends from the United States, who I respect immensely. He's a massive patriot and an all-round top guy. Richard, I think we'll call it a day. I was going to say about the videos, if you want to help me with the videos, guys, let the video play all the way through if you can. That always helps the algorithm. And don't forget to check back to see if we've uploaded, or if I've uploaded a video. The same with Richard. Don't forget to subscribe to Richard's channel as well. I am very, very close, guys. Let me tell you before we go, I am currently sitting on 299,771 subscribers. Can you get me to the magical 300,000 figure by the end of Friday before the weekend starts. I'll be really grateful if you could. Richard, final message.
Yeah, same as. I mean, it's, you know, it is sort of the boring stuff, but we do need your help on YouTube. I need it. You know, Counter Media is a great channel. I want to grow it. I want to do a lot with it, but we can't do it if we don't have the support. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to Counter Media on YouTube. If you just type in Counter Media UK, you'll find it. You'll know it when you get it, 'cause it's got my ugly mug all over it. But yeah, so please do that. Again, we've got to win the social media war. And there's a lot of voices out there that are spreading stuff that's either not true or, and I think when me and Paul come on, we give a very balanced view. If I'm on my own channels, it's a total different kettle of fish. But when me and Paul are on together, we walk the line, because obviously I don't want to get his channel vaporized. You're muted, mate. You're muted, Paul.
It's not just that, Richard. I like to try and be as fair and as balanced as I possibly can, whilst giving viewers what's in my heart. And I've never ever pretended to be right about anything or everything. I'm always willing to learn, always willing to listen. I'm a humanist. I love other human beings. I don't want to see anyone getting hurt. I want peace. I want all of those things. But everyone's patience comes to a breaking point. And for me, that's the point where we're at now. We need other communities now to step up to the plate and put their arms around us. We've been putting our arms around them for a very, very, very long time. Now it's time to see if they're willing to repay the compliment.
The only thing I would say, if anyone tries to put their arms around you and they've got wires sticking out of their jacket, don't let them do it, right? Paul,
listen, mate, if anyone tries to put their arms around me on a Friday night in Benidorm, you can guarantee they're pissed.
Well, do you know what my wife did say about the stream last night? Because she said it was one of the best ones you'd done. She said, you know the difference between you and Paul is, Richard? I says, go on then. I thought she was going to say that you were better looking, me and you would have fell out there. But she said, Paul's got real empathy, whereas you just get angry with everybody. Horses for courses, mate. Do you know?
She's a good judge. You know what, Richard? She's a good judge of character, your wife.
Well, she certainly is, mate. She's
a good judge of character.
Not about that whatsoever. That's what she said.
Let's have a little last comment of the day. Linda D, I would love to see you, Paul, and Richard in the same room one day. Lol.
Linda, you'd have to pay for that. You'd have to pay for that.
Right, guys. Not sure we'll be back next. As I said, I'm going to continue with the lives. I think what we'll do, Rich, just to break it up a little bit, you know, please God, we have a day of some kind of normality.
Where we're not talking about some horrific, monstrous, attack or something the government's done to screw us all over. I mean, it's just, it's grim at the minute. But you know what? I'm positive, Paul. We've still got our voice. We've got Advance UK. God's on our side. We're on the right side of history. I love that that top that Sarah was wearing with, right side of history. We're on the right side of history on the back of it. There's some good people coming through here. Do you know what? Dan Wotton, right? Paul's on Dan Wotton's yesterday, and Dan Wotton goes, "Oh yeah, Paul was. I watched Paul yesterday. He was on with Sarah White and these two other geezers, but they're all great." I thought, these two other geezers. Thanks, Dan.
I've got to tell you, I am a massive fan of Dan's.
So am I. I think he's great.
I think he's a great guy. I mean,
Dan, Richard Inman, just so you know.
You know what it is, Rich? He's worried about getting his channel done.
Well, that's what it is. Because I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, why is it only Paul has me on his channel?
Des, last one of the day, definitely. Thank you, Des. What do our politicians gain by creating this situation? I'll give you it in one word, Des. Well, two: money and power.
Yeah, that's it. Money and power. Oh, they're dogs. They're dogs. I mean, we need a clean sweep, and that's one for another. We've got another 2-hour conversation on that one, so we'll not do that one now, Paul. But there's so much.
We'll try and make the next live a little bit more light-hearted. Don't forget, we've got to come up with the characters for Dad told me. I've got 1 or 2 ideas. We'll see how it goes. But we'll be back soon, guys. Have a great weekend, and we will see you soon. Look after yourselves, and as always, look after those beautiful children. They are the most important thing in our lives. Have
Uncle
a lovely
Arthur.
weekend.
Uncle Arthur.
Get out of here.